Hi, so I'm just giving it a few minutes before I get started. I have less than an hour, um, but I'm just waiting to see as more people join. My name is Abraham Simmonds and I'm from Jamaica. And I'll be leading Africa Matters webinar today on Uniting the Diaspora. I'm coordinating with my colleagues in Jamaica who will be helping me to stream live on Instagram in Jamaica. It's about 11 a.m. in Jamaica now. Um, so it's pretty early in the morning for a webinar for them. But nonetheless, I'm hoping I can get good support from them. Okay, start in another few minutes. Okay, so I'm going to begin. I'm also live on Instagram and I'm live on Facebook. I'm going to start the webinar today in the Africa Matters series. I'm going to give you a bit of a background about myself. My name is Abraham Simmonds and I'm from Jamaica. I've started JAYECAN with my friend Alex in 2013, and our aim was to really just bring Jamaican people together on some values that they appreciate most, particularly culture and arts, and how we can use those to drive social change in our country and influence the direction of our democracy. Very challenging topics to intertwine, but nonetheless, we took on that challenge. We've done some extensive work in Jamaica, particularly with young people, and providing platforms for young people to be leaders and to challenge issues that are affecting them in their own communities at large. In 2017, our organization received the Queen's Young Leader Award for our efforts on our project Her Story, which focuses on helping women from disadvantaged past to use spoken word, drama, and poetry to explore thought processes, their feelings, and empower other women to who are in similar situations. Similarly, we were recognized for our work with Outreach, a project that focuses on involving young and inner city youth in the design of art programs that help them to find a new way of coping and expressing themselves at different levels. So this webinar is in partnership with Africa Matters, an organization that is set up for advocating for the rights, platform, and interests of African people, and more importantly to me and to my fellow Jamaicans and people in the Caribbean, the diaspora. My focus in this webinar will be on some specific ways that we can unite as an African region and the diaspora, and how we can especially leverage our talents and skills and our appreciation of culture in that regard for a region that moves forward in partnership with the African region. So I'm just going to give you a little idea of where this whole concept of the diaspora is coming from. For some people, it's coming from a political kind of outlook. For others, it's coming from a cultural or historical kind of outlook, looking at how Africans in different parts of the world were forcefully moved into these parts because of slavery, and how we've managed to, as African people in our different regions, rise above the challenges that we've been faced with and implement, build democracies and economies, and give rise to some of the greatest talents in the world. So I am proud to be a member of the African diaspora, and I'm sure that a lot of people across the region are just as happy to be a part of a family, so to speak. It feels good to know that you can be one place in the world with the support of thousands behind you, thousands ready to rally behind you and to help you to maneuver or overcome some of the greatest challenges that you may experience. And that, for me, at a personal level, is what I see an African diaspora doing. But more importantly, I have to say that in the Caribbean region, especially in Jamaica, our cultural legacy is coming from the vibrancy, the creativity, and the endurance and preservation of our people in our African ancestors. I believe that there is so much that can come from this unity in terms of culture. We recently did a poll on Instagram to kind of get an understanding of how people felt about the idea of the African diaspora and being a part of the African diaspora. And I just want to quickly share some of that with you. I asked the question, one second, please. I asked the question of whether or not Jamaicans felt connected to Africa. And I had about 117 participants in that poll. And 75% said they did not feel connected to the African diaspora. And I think that in itself has a lot to say about how, as organizations committed to that unity, what roles we have to play in facilitating that connection. If people in the diaspora, particularly young people, 117 young people say they don't feel connected to Africa, then there is absolutely a lot of work we can do in helping people to feel more connected. I also asked if they would want to be, because yes, we would want to know if they feel connected, but it's also valuing knowing if they wanted to be connected or if they wanted to be a part of anything that helped them to feel as connected to the diaspora as we think they should. 43% said no, but 57% said yes. 57% of 117 participants said that they would want to be a part of a more connected diaspora and feel connected to Africa. The people who said no probably have a lot of reasoning behind that. Some people may feel that it perhaps doesn't make a difference in the relationship, but I think we, as organization, and as young people, we have a lot to play, a lot of role to play in countering or changing the narrative about how people feel about being a part of the diaspora and so on. We looked at some specific ways that young people think that we could be more integrated into the African community as a diaspora. Some persons said that we should be made more aware of opportunities in Africa outside of public health and development schemes, particularly focusing on, for example, HIV and maybe the poverty that exists in some very minor parts of Africa. They would hope, especially in Jamaica, that we are able to connect more with our local embassies, African embassies in Jamaica and other parts of the region, so that when it comes to activities of not only diplomatic but cultural exchange, there is a platform for us to learn and to bridge ideas about how we can integrate what is now Jamaican or Caribbean culture into African communities, and how what is African culture can be mainstreamed or introduced into our societies. And I think a lot of people are genuinely excited about that. One interesting feedback was that we shouldn't have visa requirements from African countries. So we should not have to have a visa to visit these countries. I think that was a bit misinformed, because from what I understand, and you can tell me in your comments on Instagram and here on Facebook if you agree, I think that most of the African countries are visa free for Jamaicans up to about 90 days. So that was one positive step, and I just shared that feedback just to make the point that African countries are more receptive of the African diaspora, countries in the African diaspora, than I would say of their other international or European or North American counterparts. One interesting feedback too was about Uniting the Diaspora was that we could have regular cruises, I guess to and from both regions. And I think that these recommendations are reflective of the direction that our young people want to take in terms of how these countries partner and move forward. And I think it's very important for us to consider these. I mean, we have to be realistic that behind the scenes, at a more political or high level, these things are perhaps being implemented. There are decisions being made, perhaps in a forum that a lot of young people are not able to be at the table. So we are not making recommendations in isolation of these things, but it's important for us to also hear what young people have to say, or how they think from their standpoint the African diaspora can be united with our African counterparts, or where our ancestors are from. I think too that there is certainly a lot of value in creating more avenues for different people from across the world to give insights on how this can happen, and to benefit from this exchange as it happens within Africa and within the diaspora. And very recently I was sharing it with our friends at Africa Matters, that I believe that it would be very important for partners like JAYECAN and Africa Matters and other interested parties to work together on programs, toolkits, different activities that can be used to facilitate this exchange and to bring people closer together. Because while we are divided by distance, there's so much happening right now in terms of technological advancement that we can bank on and leverage for this exchange, particularly technology. JAYECAN is really big on leveraging technology for youth engagement, and I think that this many partnerships can be forged because of the increase we have in technology and different platforms that can connect us even closer than we are divided by space and time. I'm almost into the first 30 minutes of my webinar, but I want you to, as I discuss, feel free to help me to trigger a conversation by sharing questions that you may have. I'm also live on Instagram, so I am anticipating that some questions may come from Instagram, but the majority might come from Facebook. Questions specifically towards how, as a diaspora, we can use our youth network and our force, culture, and even technology to bridge the divide and have a more inclusive African diaspora. I want to speak on the matter of culture. It's very important to us at JAYECAN. as it relates to culture, culture for us in the Caribbean region is an evolving thing. I'm not a cultural expert, but I do believe, having lived there, there are different elements of our culture that are not the same as the years go by and as they progress. Different things change over time. Globalization has a big part to play in that, as well as the development of technology. But as they change, I personally, and some of my colleagues at JAYECAN personally, have concerns about what they change into and how much they shift from what was originally that cultural material. For example, there was a huge debate. This is outside of Jamaica, but there was a huge debate some time ago that I was reading up on, where some persons were concerned about how African fabrics were being replicated and distributed across the world using symbols that literally don't mean anything to Africa, or are just not representative of what the people who design these fabrics would appreciate. I'm trying to be very careful with my words, but people would just throw random prints onto a piece of fabric and say it's from Africa and it's African fabric, wear it. And then you'll find that it doesn't represent the symbols that are held to be of value and truth in Africa as they make their way throughout the world. And in the same way, we are concerned that we don't want our cultural heritage to be watered down and changed. We want to preserve our identity, and we are advocating for our place at the policy table, and for our place in different form that would allow us to preserve our culture and to bring others a part of the discussion and in the design of programs that will help us to preserve our culture. I think it's safe to start taking some questions from Instagram and Facebook. So if you have any questions, just please feel free to drop them in the chat. So as you are preparing your questions for me, I will be telling you about what some of my colleagues at JAYECAN think we can do in terms of preserving our relationship with Africa and expanding the diaspora. We think that it's very important, like someone said in our Facebook poll, to be engaging with our African counterparts in Jamaica by way of our embassies and consulates that are set up there. It is very important for us to be able to join in on issues that affect us in a more high level way, as well as issues that affect us in a social way. We want to be able to join in on celebrations that we may not even know about, because we are more socialized towards Europe and North America. We want to be able to participate in national festivities in different countries in Africa. I mean, you never miss when it's Thanksgiving. We always know. I mean, I was surprised to know a bunch of Caribbean people when I was in university sat together and celebrated Thanksgiving. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I would like for us to also be able to participate in African festivities in the same way. I have a question from Instagram. The question is, what issues do we now face you think will change if we build our relationship with Africa? I think in the region, and I'm going to speak about it from an economic perspective as well, from a social perspective. We need outlets, and we need more and more outlets for our goods and services. And I know for a fact that we have a very strong market for our cultural outlets that we export, our music, for example. When I went to South Africa once, I was surprised at how much they know about just Jamaican culture and how we speak and stuff like that. So there's an outlet for our culture and our music. Our artists can rest assured that they always have a market in Africa. But I think that so much more can be done with other elements of trade. That our African counterparts can be more open to having us create markets for our different products and services within the region, and vice versa. Another question is, why do you think a lot of people from Jamaica refuse to acknowledge their background connection to their African roots? I think my response to that question would be a little bit subjective, because then I would be talking from me. I can't speak for why everyone feel that way. But I could personally say that there is perhaps a lingering stigma in the air that we are still trying to fight. But I believe that once we create a more enabling platform or enabling kind of exchange, then we would be able to reduce on some of that stigma, and more people would be proud to be associated with their roots. That's my personal answer on that one. I have another question here from Facebook, our viewers on Facebook. The question is, it's a statement and a question. I would love to attend a Bob Marley week in Jamaica, and I think you should. And I think also we should be marketing it more to you as well when these things are happening, and how you can be a part of that. The person is also very interested in what JAYECAN's thought is about a Bob Marley week. I can't say for sure that there is a week, but I know that in Jamaica there is always a celebration of the life and legacy of Bob Marley, particularly his birthday. There is a museum here set up in honor of Bob Marley, and several activities that happen around that period of the year, time frame of the year. And Jamaicans are very proud of that legacy. So I'm Haitian American, and have been thinking about how to create that bridge to getting Africans and West Indians together. As there are differences in our understanding, there are also still a lot of similarities. The biggest issues, as you mentioned, is the disconnect of people from Caribbean recognizing that we're African. And I completely agree with you on that. And that's one of the mandates that we have set out to change. We're setting out to change in JAYECAN. We're changing how people look at what it means to be African, and feel more proud to be connected to that legacy. And I think our cultural exchange is a perfect place to start. And I may be calling out on Africa Matters a lot, but I really feel like as two organizations, we can start that kind of a revolution in that regard. I see another comment here. Excited to be having this conversation on uniting the diaspora. As Africans and diaspora, we need to support one another, economies, countries, cultures, etc. Exactly. And for me, if we start with culture can it's like a domino effect. Cultures can impact culture, our way of life, what we hold to be music, dance, art, has a ripple effect on our economies, has a ripple effect on our tourism product, has a ripple effect on just how people think, feel, and go about their daily lives. Um, and I can tell you, as a Jamaican, music alone can have so much impact on how you deliver a policy, how you deliver change. Bob Marley, like you spoke about earlier, Bob Marley was an advocate in his own right, and he used music. And so I still hold to the fact that music can build bridges, arts can build bridges, and they can also build economies. Yes, I see a comment here from Rian. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I'm going to be holding several meetings with Africa Matters and our partners at JAYECAN to ensure that we didn't just have a webinar, a random webinar, but more so we're able to have a tangible outcome. When we have toolkits and programs that develop later on, we can be able to say that, you know, it started with a webinar on Facebook. It started with us really having some conversations about why, as a diaspora, we're so disconnected and disjointed. And here we are today with this program, or with this toolkit that you can use in your own individual countries to design or roll out programs that are helping us to build that link. I am also, there's another comment here on Instagram. Undoubtedly, Africa is judged based on the media's depiction of it. Is this the same for Africa looking on us in the West? Why or why not? I think our Africans on our Facebook chat, our Facebook webinar, will be the ones that have to answer that. How are we portrayed? How are we in the Caribbean and in African diaspora portrayed to you? Is it, are we portrayed as societies that you want to be a part of? Are we portrayed as cultures that you want to own? Because it's not always the same on the other side. We're in the region and in the diaspora, we constantly see images of an underdeveloped Africa with very limited resources and very limited opportunities to engage. And I feel like we need to be able to, as a diaspora, channel the real images from our counterparts in Africa and say that this is what Africa has to offer. This is where we are from originally. And this is what they have to offer, and we should do everything we can to support them. And I think until that happens, I don't know that we will see much changes in how Africa is portrayed in the diaspora. So a part of what we're setting out to do at JAYECAN is to ensure that we play a part in changing that narrative and doing whatever we can to create a new image of what Africa is like. It's quite an ongoing debate, and it has been for a while. And I think people don't realize how much they can do to counter that outlook, how much they can say, because every time we open our mouths and we say something that is bringing down what we know to be true about Africa, we are just adding to the problem. There's a new comment here on Facebook. Learning and understanding our history would create a bridge of unity. That is where our link is, and we need to flash it out from the archives. I agree. I completely agree. And I also agree that whenever we do get whenever it does come out from the archives, it's a watered down, politicized propaganda that we hear, and even in the scheme of in the whole atmosphere of fake news and debunking false information, it is so much more difficult to validate what is true about what we learn, because 10, 15, 20 years ago, the history that was taught is different from the history that's being taught now. And of course, that's a very personal opinion, but I believe that as we go deeper into what is African history, we begin to look at different areas of African history and slavery, because that's what we are more connected to as a diaspora, that history of being taken from Africa and forced to work and live in a region that we have no ties. And then we are now looking into different elements of that history, looking at the role of women, looking at the role of children, looking at how when slavery ended, how we managed to transform into small independent societies, and we're still transitioning. I still believe that when the colonizers left these countries, they did not do enough to provide technical assistance or support in transitioning governments. So you find that you have societies, states within the Caribbean and other diasporic regions where the countries are left on their own to build democracies, to start governments, and to enable trade, when all the resources and the technical expertise left the moment we got independence. And it's still an uphill fight, but I believe that when we work together, we'll be able to counter some of these, if not all of these challenges. And I think young people should have a greater value for what it means to write. We need to write editorials. We need to write policy papers. We need to write letters, open letters, statements, because these can go a far way in terms of helping to steer the direction of policy and legal reform, and also helping to build bridges from within the region and Africa. I am still accepting questions, so if you have any question for me, let me know. But for those people who are slowly joining on Instagram, what we've been discussing is really the African diaspora, in terms of the role the diaspora can play in cultural exchange, and also in terms of helping to change the narrative that people have, the people who don't want to be a part of the diaspora or have no interest in being a part of the diaspora can have a new narrative and be more likely and willing to buy into what is this African community of the diaspora and of that region. We have an equal fight as much as we have equal efforts to. Well, let me change. I think we have a greater fight than we have efforts to build these bridges and to make change. I feel like there isn't enough being done, because associating with change can be such a difficult thing. You can be so criticized for wanting to be a part of change or championing activities or interventions that will result in change. And I think we, especially my colleagues at Africa Matters and in JAYECAN, have a very important role to play in how we reward and uplift the champions that are actually on the forefront, leading initiatives and leading the dialogue. been disconnected from Facebook. So we need to reward those who are at the forefront, leading in the dialogue in this regard. And in Jamaica, we have introduced the Youth Empowerment Awards. It's not just a random award scheme. It recognizes young cultural activists and youth leaders who are using culture and the arts to preserve what is true about our African heritage and to promote different aspects of material and immaterial culture. The Youth Empowerment Awards usually takes the form of a production. Over the course of 6 months, it's planned and implemented over that time. We select a director who plans the script and the general flow of the show. And the show is a display of young art groups and art initiatives that are led by grassroots organizations at the community level. And they're rewarded and given a platform to talk about the work that they're doing in terms of arts and culture. Every year we select an honoree who is essentially a person that has been doing the same kind of work for many years. And we believe that they hold some key values that we want to display in our work as we move forward. And so that is a key part of what we do in JAYECAN. I see that Africa Matters has shared a link, africamattersinitiative.com/get involved. That's where you'll be able to see the programs that they have available and how you can become a part of that. And I'm sure, and I'm saying it on live social media, that coming out of the partnerships I hope for us to have with JAYECAN and Africa Matters, we will have more gateways in Jamaica and in the region for you to get involved and to participate in a two-way exchange where people in the diaspora can get involved in programs in different parts of Africa, and other people in Africa can support our initiatives in Jamaica and region at large. I think we've been having a very fruitful discussion. I like the questions and comments that have been coming in, and I'm happy to engage you in a separate forum. JAYECAN has a lot of opportunities for you to be involved if you're watching from Jamaica and other parts of the Caribbean. Very soon we are also thinking about expanding to different parts, and I'm very happy if anyone in watching from anywhere in Africa would want to help us to maybe broaden our network and establish new partnerships or even chapters where you are. We would be happy to share our model or concept for you to roll out within your part of the world, and we're more than happy to also share whatever lessons we have. Our website is jayecan.org. We send out very frequent newsletters and opportunities. So if you stay engaged, you would be first to know what we know and what we are a part of. I think it was a great webinar, and I want to, if there are no other questions for me, I think we would have come to the end of what I have to share. So you can follow us, my organization, at JAYECAN _ on Instagram, or at JAYECANO on Facebook. And like I said, visit our website at jayecan.org, where it's a developing website, and over time we'll have more articles and information related to the work that we're doing and the work that we hope to do with Africa Matters. I'm being very vocal and public about what I would like to see happen with us. But I want to thank Africa Matters for this opportunity to share, and for the platform that I could use to basically show others in my country and in the region what can happen when we collaborate and the discussions that we can have. So, like I said, I'm happy that we were able to have a webinar, but I think working together on some tangible outputs that can come from this type of dialogue about engaging the diaspora on issues that relate to culture is very important, and I look forward to whatever toolkits and programs that we develop together going forward. So thank you so much for having me, and thank you for joining me on Instagram and Facebook. And I look forward to re-engaging with you and to supporting and working with Africa Matters, an initiative that gives more young people in Jamaica and in the Caribbean a platform to engage with and feel a part of Africa. Thank you so much. And you can reach out to me on Facebook or on Instagram if you have any personal questions that you may want to ask, or if you want to know how to participate in our programs. Thank you, and hopefully Africa Matters, you'll invite me again or another member of our team. Thanks.